Hela is back and better than ever. She is the deck that sets the bar in this new Marvel Snap metagame, and I have a guide that tells you everything you need to know in order to crush your enemy's spirits with the Asgardian goddess of death. This is the list that we'll be looking at today. It is my most successful attempt at making Hela consistent and powerful, and it is the most played and highest win rate iteration of the deck with a reasonable sample size on Untapped. In other words, this is the deck that you should expect to see the absolute most when you queue up any game of Marvel Snap. Hela has several unique dynamics, the first of which is she's a very one-track mind deck. This is not a deck that does anything other than build up a Hela and play a Hela on turn 6. This means that Hela has one of the lowest visible skill differentials in the data that I have ever seen. There is a only slight difference between this deck's win rate in top 10% infinite and top 50% infinite, and even from ranks 70 to 100, a group of players that actually includes many bot games. Hela has a 53% win rate, or this list does, in top 10% infinite, a 53.5% win rate in top 50% infinite, and a 55% win rate in the 70 to 100 bracket per Untapped. Now, what this means is that there is not a lot of room for skill expression in this deck. There is some, but not as much as you might expect. There is also a flip side of this. This is a relatively easy deck to play and deck to master. There's a lot of small things that can help you gain edges, but the fundamentals of how you're going to play the deck are going to be the same with or without a massive amount of play skill. In addition, Hela is arguably the best free-to-play deck in the entire game. When you look at this list, it is one of the cheapest and strongest and most consistent lists in the entire game. There are so many reasons to play this deck, and I don't want to sit here and be the player who enjoys skill diffing, who gets mad when a worse player beats him with a good deck, because that is what Hela is a factory of. This deck is strong, it is easy, and it is cheap, and those are generally good things for a deck in Marvel Snap. Blade was the first change among many that pushed Hela towards long-term viability. This targeted discard allowed Hela to become much more selective and powerful with what it was actually reviving. Many people may not remember this, but Blade wasn't always targeted. He used to be random, and before this change, Hela was not even seriously considered a deck that you could play. The addition of targeted discard is one of the major things that made this deck strong. Now, keep that in mind for when we talk about Hellcow later. One note on playing Blade in the deck, I do talk about how there's not the world's greatest amount of skill expression in Hela, but there are some very specific tips that you should know, and we'll cover those as we go card to card. Blade has one of those tips imbued into him. You are ideally never going to target a death with Blade. This is not something that is very common to see, because you have Lady Sif in the deck. Death is your insurance against having to 50-50 or 66% a Hela when you have a Hela in hand and you have some other 6-drops in hand. You would almost always rather hit a Giganto or an Infinite or pretty much anything else other than Death. Death is your Lady Sif insurance. You do not want to blade her away. Otherwise, just fire this guy off whenever you can hit the Infinite or Giganto. He'll do great. There's only one real debate about Hela decks right now, and it is Luke Cage in this slot versus Wasp in this slot. So let's talk about the upsides and downsides of each, and why people are choosing to run different versions, and what I can glean from the stats, and what I can glean from my fellow high infinite players. Luke Cage is the option that I have gone with here. I think that this deck wants to be playing stats, and Luke Cage effectively, when you're bringing back 3 things, is a 3-9, and we're interested in having those numbers. Now, when you're bringing back 4 things, 3-11. We're very happy with that. This deck only does one thing. It only plays Hela, and I think that it is valuable right now to just accept that you're only playing Hela. If you end up discarding a Luke Cage and bringing it back, it's actually not all that bad. If the 4th thing you discard is a Luke Cage, that's still an effective 11 power across multiple locations. That's just a good thing to do. One note on Luke Cage is that when Hela brings him back, he hits himself too, so you will actually be getting that effective value of 11, even if he is the 4th card discarded. This deck has gotten so much better at getting to about 4 big guys discarded between Blade and new Hellcow that it is just very often able to actually access this. Now, what does Wasp give you? Wasp gives you better control over your final turn and the ability to play Blink on turn 5. This deck does not have a lot of expensive stuff, or a lot of cheap stuff in it. It is mono expensive stuff. And so when you have a Wasp that can turn into a 6-drop, right? Like, let's say the last 2 cards in your deck are like Hela and Magneto or something like that, having the ability to go do that with a Wasp is actually kind of nice. You are going to lose a bit on having Wasp, and I do think Wasp is a harder card to play. For this reason, I have opted for the Luke Cage because I am not actually convinced that it is worse than Wasp. It is meaningfully easier to play, and you get a lot of value out of having Luke Cage in the deck against people who are playing things like Ajax and US Agent. Those are reasonable cards in this metagame, especially US Agent against a deck like Hela, and having Luke Cage in your deck is a really powerful ability for you to bring to bear. Luke Cage, in addition, is sort of future-proofing this deck. What are they going to do? Put -3 on the Hela? Okay, I mean, I'm already running Luke Cage. I'm going to be doing the same thing I'm already doing. Lady Sif is unbelievable. The OG targeted discard, a 3/5 stat line, just the perfect card for this deck. Exactly what you want to see every turn 3. You are going to have to 50-50 some of these, or 66% some of these. You just have to accept that you're going to do that, right? And the fact that Lady Sif comes out so early means that you're often able to do this with, like, relative impunity. Like, okay, I missed this, I retreat, I make this, I'm probably snapping, I'm probably winning the game. Like, if you have a game that involves, like, Lady Sif, Hellcow, and Blade, you're dropping 4 things on them, they're gonna lose, they're gonna need more power than that, and you just are sort of unapproachably large. There are times where I feel like maybe Lady Sif isn't worth it, maybe that 50-50 isn't worth it, but the fact is, you are not overwhelmingly above 50% to win any game. So if it comes down to a 50-50 a lot of the time, I'm gonna take it. That's just how I'm built, and I think to some degree that's how you have to be built to play a Hela deck. You gotta be willing to gamble when it's the right time to gamble. Jubilee Blink is a monstrosity of a strategy that has stuck around long after it became non-meta, with the nerf to Leech as the sort of alt Jubilee in the mid-range versions of it. Jubilee Blink in the Hela deck is one of the big things that raises the floor of this deck. Jubilee pulls a card out of your deck, Blink goes and converts the Jubilee into a 6-drop. This is a huge boost to the consistency of this list. You are much more able to count on getting Hela when you have Jubilee and Blink available to you. They are the cards that take this from a relatively finicky combo deck to a combo deck that hits its combo an overwhelmingly large amount of the time. Make no mistake, this is not Phoenix Force. You do not need to do a specific thing in the specific early turns to make this deck work. You can do everything late. You can do final turn kind of plays where it's like, okay, here's my actual entire turn. I start playing cards on turn 4. I play Hellcow. I play Jubilee on 5. I play Blade. I blink the Blade, and it gets the Hela because that's the only card, or one of the only 2 cards left in my deck. Like, you actually have games like that, where it's like, you just kind of can guarantee, again, depending on order, like sometimes you play the Blade first, and then the Jubilee, and sometimes you have to think about, like, what is this Jubilee gonna pull? Is it possible, depending on my order, that I end up discarding your Hela? This is actually one of the more skill testing bits of this, and it's skill testing because it's not a skill that's often tested, which is to say it's a fairly easy thing to do once you get in the habit of it, but you have to be thinking like, okay, if this Jubilee pulls Lady Sif, do I have death? Am I willing to risk the 50-50 combined with the, 20% chance the Jubilee pulls Lady Sif? What about if it pulls Blade? You have to be considering all of these options as they happen, and it's sort of like playing the odds rather than playing the board. When I first started Marvel Snap, there were 3 main archetypes that, like, once you got into Series 3, you could really put a lot of work in with. And there were 3 build-around cards for those archetypes. One of those cards was Hellcow, who at the time was a 2/6 with the discard 2 cards on reveal. The other 2 cards, for the record, were Sarah and Death. Now, this is a weird feeling for me, because Hellcow was the first of those cards I got, and I was very excited to be able to play with it and do all of those things. But as you can see, I have not played with this card for an extremely long time. There's a base variant up here, because that's the only variant of Hellcow I own. This has not been a playable card in forever, basically. And now it is a key piece and a key cornerstone of why this deck makes sense. This is a very simple equation. You can play the Hela after activating the Hellcow on turn 6 with absolutely no risk of anything bad happening to you. Just 2 discarded cards into the Hela that get revived, and the cards in your hand are very big, because that's what stays in your hand when you play this deck. So very, very, very often, this is just like, pitch Magneto in the Infinite, bring them back with Hela. This is the consistency piece that has made this deck so strong right now. And I don't mean to say that this deck is overpowered, but it is very consistent, and it does what it does at basically every level of the game. From the lowest levels of the game to the highest levels, no matter how prepared you are, you can still fall victim to this deck because of this card. This is a Hela target. I think I'm going to start saying this a lot. I know the first few of these have been like very in-depth, but like fundamentally, once we get into the 6-drops, what they are is Hela targets. And Black Cat, not a 6-drop, but she's a Hela target. You get her for free on a discard. She goes into your hand. She goes into the Hela pool. You bring her back when you play the Hela. Very straightforward. Blink is a goddess. Just an absolute irreplaceable card in this deck. I guess irreplaceable is sort of a hard word to say here, because I'm sure you could play Hela without Blink. It just wouldn't be nearly as good. This is a card that is, along with Jubilee, part of the glue of the deck, what makes it a sort of legitimate choice in the face of basically everything. Blink allows you to sort of get the specific card out of the deck that you want. You are almost never worse than 50-50ing for a Hela because of this card, and that consistency alongside the discard consistency from Hellcow is why this deck is as good as it is. Jubilee and Blink cover the get to Hela part. Hellcow covers the get stuff in the Hela pool part, and you just are doing this kind of all the time. You know her, you love her. That's our girl. So, Hela is a very unique game piece in Marvel Snap, and I think is indicative of a mistake that I think they make some of the time, where this is a card that I think makes a lot more sense in a world where Marvel Snap isn't as popular, isn't as large, and isn't as competitive as it is right now. In other words, if everyone actually had unique collections, Hela, the card that presents a unique deck-building puzzle with massive payoff on the back end, would actually be a cool card to exist. Fundamentally, though, because unique collections just functionally doesn't exist at the top end, most of the people who are playing in top 10% Infinite have all the cards or functionally all of the cards, and this deck specifically is like very much not a deck that stretches the wallet in any meaningful way. The deck building puzzle is actually solved instantaneously, and then because of Untapped, because of me, because of everyone who spreads decks, it's all kind of everywhere. The way this card seems designed is to provide fun via the deck building puzzle, but once you actually queue into the game, it's not actually fun gameplay. It's just, does it happen, and where do they go, and can you beat the numbers? Hela is effectively a numbers check. That's what this deck's function is. You can either clog it up, or you can go above it. Those are really the only things you can do about it. Maybe we'll find some more meaningful ways to disrupt it. Things like, I don't know, Moon Knight and Spider-Ham. I don't really know. Maybe we'll start playing Ghost and Shang-Chi stuff. Again, I don't really know. But the main ways of doing it are what I've mentioned. And that is the sort of issue that a lot of players have with her. I think a lot of good players can fall into the trap of getting mad that she is a card that worse players beat them with, and I don't think that's worth getting mad about. I think that's a fine thing to have in your game to some degree, and, you know, we can quibble about what the degree is, but that's not really what I care about with Hela. What I care about with Hela is how much having a consistent points deck at this caliber limits the other options that I have to try to play against it. If I want to play a points deck and it does not go taller than Hela, sucks to be me. I can't do anything about it. So I have to deck build with this card in mind every time I do anything, and it very much constricts the range of possibilities that I have available to play. I think a lot of people think that people like hate cards for reasons that are like generally unjustified, and I want to make it clear, I don't hate Hela. I just think that I don't like the effect she tends to have on metagames, and that is what I've been talking about here. I worry that I think a lot of people think that, like, I don't know, like, basically I'm like some jackass on Twitter just mad at his football coach who doesn't know ball. I know a little bit of ball, is all I'm saying here. This is a Hela target. In a lot of decks, Magneto is a card that has cool applications and reasonable use cases, but really here he is a 6/12 that we bring back, and sometimes he does something cool like disrupt the opponent in a way we didn't predict. You are almost never going to reasonably be able to know where this guy goes. There is something to the idea that you can try to narrow it down to 50-50s. That can happen a lot with Hela, where it's like, I need to figure out my Hela placements on the final turn of the game so that I am able to sort of best enable my big guys to go in other lanes. Things like that do matter, but I think I have found at least that it's kind of hard to get value out of Magneto when you don't know where he's going to go either. Giganto is a semi-flex slot for Red Hulk. I am under the impression that Giganto is just better. Red Hulk can be better if he starts in your opening hand. And that's like a lot more reasonable right now with the addition of Hellcow to the deck. A Red Hulk in your opening hand is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you actually are able to meaningfully discard it more of the time than you were before Hellcow came into the deck. The issue you kind of run into is Red Hulk doesn't gain power when he's in the discard pool. And a lot of the time you're pitching a Giganto or an Infinite, or, Red Hulk as it were, with your Blade, because you don't want to be Lady Sifting these cards, or your Hellcow, and in which case it's like, all right, well, how long has it actually been in the hand? Red Hulk needs to have been in the hand for 2 turns in order to be bigger than this card. That is not a good Blade target, and it can be a good Hellcow target, but I don't see it as being worth the tokens to get what is at best a minor upgrade and what realistically might be a downgrade at this slot. It's a Hela target. What do you want me to say? You get a 620. It's 618 without Luke Cage. You bring it back and it wins lanes. That's what you do. I talked about this a bit in the Lady Sif section, so I'm not going to harp on it here. But this is a powerful card that does a lot to alleviate what would be 50-50s. Having Death in the deck allows you to target Lady Sif, get that 12 power out, get it back onto the board. And I think that kind of thing, that safety, is what makes this deck so strong. Lady Sif the Death, play a Hellcow, Blade away a big guy. Okay, it's turn 6, activate Hellcow, play Hela. You just got like a million dudes. You got a million dudes. And that's safe and consistent and powerful. And that's the name of the game right here. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to jump into some gameplay so you can get a sense for this. I will say at the time, I will sort of preface the gameplay with, I was making a lot of jokes about like how high skill Hela is. Like you might, I don't know. It might be a little hit or miss here. I was very much just like, play Hela, talk about how high skill I am, how low skill my opponents are. I do feel like it might be necessary to clarify. That's a joke. I'm making a joke. I'm saying the opposite of what I think because that's funny. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm KM Best. You've been phenomenal, and we'll see you in the next one. Now it's not, because of this thing right here. Power here doesn't count towards winning the game. I wonder what that implies about this Jubilee. Am I supposed to use it to clog up things on the right? Most of the cards in my deck are smaller than the ones in my hands. I mean, I might as well 50-50 this, yeah? It's not even a 50-50, it's a 33%er. I just gotta be fine with this. If I lose it, I lose it. I'll stay in, and if I lose it, I'll leave. Okay. So I get a Blade, an Infinite, a Magneto, a Giganto, and a Black Cat. That's not all the stones, is it? No. Alright, let's just see how lucky we are. Lucky enough. That seemed like a skill testing thing that happened. I don't know if that makes sense. Ooh, that's gonna be a big guy. I'm just gonna play the Infinite. Okay. Death, Black Cat. Sure, I'll gamble. My real question is, does it go over here instead? Middle is only 2. If Hela goes middle, We're going to 12? Ah, fuck it. You know what? Sure, chat. I'll listen to you. Buddy. That Red Hulk soloed. Boy. Fog and moving Hela. That does seem to be what the vibe is. Oh boy. A Hela mirror. We're about to skill game the shit out of each other. Perhaps the most skillful gameplay of all time. Okay, see, I don't like that because they've been more skillful than me. That's bad because they've demonstrated more skill than me here. I've drawn 2 rocks. That's really bad. They're just nutting, dude. Holy shit. Okay. I've drawn 3 rocks. Shit, all right. Look at the skill on display here, chat. Will we be skilled enough? Seems like it. Skill game, buddy. What is? What a high skill game we've both been engaged in here. My job to make sure that we get good decks to our opponent, to my YouTube title, and also this is really important too. I don't know anything that's fun right now. I just don't. God, they're so cool. Holy shit, what a chef. We snap here? I mean, they play Cosmo. They like 100% play Cosmo. It's not even a question. Cosmo Mystique. Cosmo Mystique. Real. Okay, they did not Cosmo. They just went for points, and I'm pretty sure they fucking cannot even come close to winning in the world that we have just created here. Maybe they can. I don't know. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Not even fucking close. Not even remotely close. They just, like, played some shit. Jesus Christ. That's what you get for playing a fair game of Marvel Snap, you moron. They had War Machine down, and they got an Infinite from the Wrath. If the Wrath was in that game, the Infinite beats you. You got kind of lucky if you think about it. No, all skill, bro. All skill, bro. 100% skill game. Is there a world where Red Hulk is better than Giganto? Usually no, actually. Typically, it is not. Trying Blackout was so smart, dude, I know. Skill game once again. Let's see if I draw Hela. Look at the skill. Look at the skill on display as I skillfully discard this Magneto. Is Hela more or less skill game than Agatha? Significantly more, actually. See, even if I pull Hela, it's still just Black Cat Magento here. Uh, 50-50 to get Hela. You know? I'll take a 50-50 to get Hela. I have no idea what happens. Blink first? It doesn't matter. There's two cards in my deck. One is Giganto, one is Hela. It literally, it doesn't matter. Ah, hello! Behold my skill! What a game plan from KM Best, dude. What a high skill, high power game plan from me. You love it. Yeah, man, I feel that way too. The fact that it bothers you guys so much just proves how true it is. Love a Hela mirror. This deck has too much RNG? No, it's all skill. What do you mean RNG? 100% skill. Guys talking about RNG? The fuck? Huh? Okay, so that's the Infinite. And then next turn I have Hela with Luke Cage and Death in it. I'm guessing we snap. I just realized from checking my thing that their discarded card was a copycat Black Cat. No. Nice. We lose. Yeah? We lose by 1. On both lanes. Oh. 20. For some reason, I thought they would get 12 out of that. I don't know why. They get 10 out of that. Yeah, I think I'll happily do this. For shizzle. Jesus. I played that deck, Woody. I was not a fan, but I understand. You follow the NFL, of course. You understand what? That, like, how it can be good? It just wasn't for me. Ooh, I think we can lose to this. Okay. This might just be Hela. It's either Hela or Infinite if we do this. I think I'm fine with it. Okay, so next turn we get Infinite Death. I don't know if I want to snap it. What's 1632? Okay, that is probably a snap. Now, the real question is, let's say they go, like, are we here, or are we just like here? I don't know why they would do any of this. Do you think Tony Romo should be inducted into the Hall of Fame? Wong, Flip Mysterio, Hazmat Sith. Yeah, just like a bunch of shit. Cage will tie left. What? Instead of playing The Infinite? Cage plus Jubilee? Sure, why not? There are several reasons why not, but we'll see how it goes. No cards. Okay, Wong. Silver, that's it? Alright. That was never winning anything ever. We tanked on this for no reason. There was no shot in hell anytime. It's the fact, like, the days of, like, a Tom Brady walking up to the line of scrimmage and being like, I know what the defense is running, are gone. That's just not how things work anymore. We have guys lining up 8 dudes on the line of scrimmage and dropping them all into coverage. Like, it's just not like that anymore. And Tony Romo was not the best QB in the world in that era. Surely we never accidentally pull. Acceptable. Okay, I'm kind of scared here. I think I win, but I don't get the extra blade value. Order? Blink first? What are we... What? Blink Hellcow first? Don't I activate it first? Oh, right. Activate Hellcow. Blink Hellcow, play Mockingbird, play Blade. Okay. Not good. Is good. Now we get to play everyone's favorite game of where are the cards going? Okay, I feel good about that one. Giganto, Lady Sif. Let's see what the fuck happens. Lady Sif. Giganto. The Infinite goes middle, we win.